1800 hours, Pakistan Standard Time. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio Pakistan. The news read by Farzana Khan. First, the headlines. Prime Minister addresses the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York today. Shehbaz Sharif has appealed to the international donors for debt relief and launching special programs for rehabilitation of flood-affected people of Pakistan. The United States has expressed commitment to continue helping Pakistan in the wake of difficult humanitarian situation due to devastating floods. All parties Hurriyat Conference has urged the United Nations to fulfill its obligations towards resolving the Kashmir dispute by implementing its resolutions. A Palestinian has been martyred by Israeli forces in Modi'in city near the occupied West Bank. The third T20 international match between Pakistan and England will be played in Karachi today. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif will make speech at the high-level general debate of the ongoing 77th session of UN General Assembly today. Later on, he will hold a bilateral meeting with his Dutch counterpart, Mark Rutte, and will attend a Zoom meeting with the U.S. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Co-founder Malala Fund, Malala Yousafzai, will also call on the Prime Minister. In the evening, the Prime Minister will depart for London after completing his 5-day official visit of the United States. Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif has made an urgent appeal to the international donors for debt relief and special programs for rehabilitation of flood-affected people of the country. In an interview with Bloomberg in New York today, he said Pakistan needs additional funds to tackle the destruction wreaked by climate-induced catastrophic floods. The Prime Minister said it is impossible to revive our economy with this unprecedented destruction without substantial debt relief. He said we have an agreement with the IMF recently under very tough conditions, compelling us to impose taxes every month on electricity and petroleum. Shehbaz Sharif further said he has talked to Paris Club and IMF in this regard. He said that while the country is already facing an economic crunch, the unprecedented floods displaced millions of people, destroyed standing crops on millions of hectares of land, besides destruction of thousands of houses. The Prime Minister said we now have to rehabilitate these millions of people, provide them with safe housing, medical facilities, build climate-resilient infrastructure, and restore agricultural lands destroyed by the floods. He said that Pakistan will also have to import tons of wheat this year to meet its food requirements as millions of acres of agricultural land has been inundated by the floods. The United States has expressed the commitment to continue helping Pakistan in the wake of difficult humanitarian situation due to devastating floods. The resolve was expressed during U.S. President Joe Biden's meeting with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in New York. The meeting was held at the reception of world leaders participating in 77th session of United Nations General Assembly hosted by President Joe Biden. The Prime Minister thanked the U.S. President for his message to the international community for support to Pakistan's flood-affected people. He also thanked the people and the government of the United States for sending head of U.S. aid to visit Pakistan and providing relief assistance. President Biden expressed grief for the affected families over loss of human lives and the devastation caused by the floods in Pakistan. The Prime Minister thanked the U.S. President for expressing grief and sympathy with the flood-affected people of Pakistan. Minister for Planning and Development Ehsan Iqbal has said that responsibility rests with the world to come forward for the help of flood victims in Pakistan. Talking to the media persons in Islamabad, he said Pakistan today is facing the climate-induced destruction because of irresponsible development of industrialized nations. He said though Pakistan is contributing less than 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions, yet it is one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. Planning Minister said the Prime Minister during his visit to New York is shaking the world conscience to fulfill its moral obligations for the relief and rehabilitation of flood-affected people of Pakistan. He also urged the United Nations to stand united in this hour of trial. A total of 123 flights carrying relief goods from various countries and global humanitarian organizations for the flood victims of Pakistan have so far landed in the country. According to Foreign Office, the United Arab Emirates sent 41 flights of relief goods, the United States 21, Turkey and UNHCR 13 each, Oman 8, Saudi Arabia 5, China and Qatar 4 each, UNICEF and World Food Programme 3 each, while Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Jordan, Nepal, France, the UK, Russia and Greece 1 each air cargo to Pakistan. Besides, Iran sent 100 tons of relief goods by road, Turkey 2 trucks and 3 trains, Tajikistan 87 truckloads, and Oman 1 ship to support the flood victims of Pakistan. The United Nations is working on a policy memo proposing a debt relief for Pakistan by its creditors. According to Daily Financial Times, the UN Development Programme will share the memo with Pakistan government. The Daily claims that the memo will urge Pakistan's creditors to consider debt relief so that policymakers can prioritize financing its disaster response over loan repayment. This is Radio Pakistan giving you the news. All Parties Hurriyat Conference has urged the United Nations to shun its indifference towards Indian brutalities in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and fulfill its obligations towards resolving Kashmir dispute. In a statement in Srinagar, the APHC said world leaders attending the ongoing 77th session of the UN General Assembly session in New York must hold India accountable for grave human rights violations being perpetrated by the Indian troops in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. In Geneva, Kashmiri delegates during a meeting with members of Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation briefed them about deteriorating political and human rights situation in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. On the other hand, several Muslim organizations of India have strongly condemned the massive raids by India's National Investigation Agency and Enforcement Directorate at the offices of Muslim Organization, Popular Front of India, and houses of its leaders across India. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has expressed the hope that upcoming UN climate change conference in Egypt must make broad progress. In a video message for the Alliance of Small Island States Leaders breakfast, he said COP27 must demonstrate that the world is making progress on all pillars of Paris Agreement, and we urgently need to address loss and damage in a credible way. He said the United Nations will continue to push for more ambition and climate action by all, especially the Group of 20, which account for 80% of global emissions. Israeli forces have martyred a Palestinian man during clashes in Modi'in city, just next to seam line zone between Israel and the occupied West Bank. According to eyewitnesses, an off-duty police officer shot at the Palestinian without any investigation. In Syria, death toll has risen to 73 after a boat carrying migrants who were boarded in Lebanon sank off in the Mediterranean Sea off Syrian city of Tartus. According to Syria's health minister, around 150 people, mostly Lebanese and Syrians, were on board the small boat. And now cricket. The third T20 international match between Pakistan and England will be played in Karachi today. The match will start at 7:30 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. And finally, we have the weather report for you. Mainly dry weather is likely to prevail over most parts of the country, while hot in central and southern parts during the next 12 hours. However, rain with thunderstorm is expected at isolated places in northeast Punjab, Kashmir, and Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And that is the end of the news. For more news and analyses, log on to our website radio.gov.pk and also watch live video streaming of our bulletins on the link facebook.com/Radio Pakistan News Official.